to the Nurtured Nurturer podcast. I'm Beth, here for the counsellors, therapists and nurturers who need a little looking after. Today I'm talking to Liezl Laidlaw. Liezl is an online therapist and mindfulness teacher for ADHDers. Welcome, Liezl.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Thanks so much for coming on. I'll just give a bit of a background for people so that about what we're going to talk about today, because today we're going to talk about networking or connecting, maybe a better term, and marketing as well, really, for those who maybe are a little bit nervous about that kind of thing, understandably. I know that for a lot of us, that can be quite tricky. There's lots of people who do our kind of work who are maybe more on the introvert side, maybe sensitive, that kind of thing, and find networking and connecting quite difficult. And I happen to be talking about this in our Facebook group, and Liezl happened to mention that actually it's something that she really enjoys doing. So I thought I'd get on the podcast and sort of harvest that enthusiasm and knowledge. So it's thanks ever so much for coming on and sharing your experiences and your expertise.
My pleasure. I like I say, I do love it. I have to say that I didn't always love networking. And one of the reasons I didn't always love networking is because of the way I was introduced to it. So I will go into that as we talk about this stuff.
Okay.
So I can give you a kind of a story arc. It's not just I've always loved it and therefore I'm much better than everyone else. It's not how it is. It's
Brilliant.
about being able to get there. So we're going to get to that.
Excellent. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about that. And I think it's actually really important to sort of say that these things don't come naturally to a lot of people. And it does take a bit of a learning curve at times. And it is possible to get there. You don't have to be a natural sort of communicator or networker. Before we get into all that, I'd love to hear a bit more about you, Liezl.
Okay. Well, that's a wide question. So now you see the whites of my eyes. I guess what I can tell you is I live in the Scottish borders where there are more sheep than people. I work online, which means I don't really get to see real humans apart from my clients very much. And I'm a home educator, so my child's in my house the whole day.
Okay.
Which means I have some very specific, I sound like the guy from that movie. I have some very specific needs, not skills. And it means that kind of shapes what I do in my free time. So if I do anything mindfulness related for myself, that's more often than not going to be online.
Okay.
But I do love a bit of camping in the summertime. I love a festival. I do like getting out. But there's lots of reasons to be in as well, and that's nice too.
Yes. I completely hear what you're saying, and certainly at the moment, being inside underneath a blanket is very nice and understandable. That's for sure.
Totally. Yeah, and you know the dog will fight me for said blanket. But that's okay too. That's part of the experience.
Oh, I love that. Dogs actually are starting to become a little bit of a theme on this podcast. So of people with dogs and the appreciation of dogs. I think first of all, perhaps you could let me know how you personally define networking or connecting.
So networking to me is anytime I turn up as me in front of another person's face. Whether that is because I'm speaking to a big group of people or whether I'm speaking to one person individually.
Mm.
And that means I have many more opportunities to call it networking than only if we've made an appointment and we've set aside an hour to talk to each other.
Mm. Yes, yes. That makes sense. And you said earlier on that for you it has been there's been a learning curve. So could you perhaps start to tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so there's a bit of personal history that goes beyond before I was a therapist. In that I was finding my way on my career path. I trained as a teacher in South Africa, but
All right.
that wasn't really where I needed to be. I learned a lot from it and I still use a lot of it now. But I
Mm,
found myself going into all kinds of different um, professional areas that often relied on me to be able to make an impression with someone else in a short period of time. So I learned how to do, for example, what the Americans would call an elevator pitch, to summarize what it is I need to get out so that the other person can recognize what the rest of the time we spend together as valuable.
mm,
I also learned that people are way more interested in talking about themselves than they
yeah.
are to listening to you. And it takes the pressure off something else because as you're learning about this person, you get to learn what's important to them, which means in
Yeah.
the background, you get to tailor
Mm,
when and what you're going to say to them about the thing that you want them to take away. So, for
mm,
example, you just asked me about my dog.
yeah.
Now, if you knew that my dog's a whippet, you might be able to come up with some anecdote or something that's appropriate to talk about whippets,
Yeah.
which means you could then probably do some kind of a connection between, oh, you know what, they sleep 90% of the time, and isn't that lovely? Which could then be linked with some other thing that you were trying to bring to them,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So the more we learn about other people, the more interesting we become to them because they get to talk about themselves. And the
Mm,
more knowledge we gather from them that's useful for what we might like to bring into the conversation. So we don't genuinely have to prepare ourselves from day one with a
mm,
speech that's a minute long.
yeah.
If the opportunity presents itself, it's great to have that ready to go. Because if somebody says to you, what do you do? Well, you want to be able to tell them what you do so that they
Absolutely.
get an
Yeah.
answer. But it's not always going to work like that. Networking isn't always as formalized as that.
No, no. And what I like about that actually is that it kind of runs counter to some of the traditional ideas of networking, which where people might think, "Oh, I'm not interesting enough. I don't know what to say to people. I don't have this sparkly, exciting personality or exciting anecdotes or anything like that." But actually, it's not what you're saying is, it sounds like, is that it's not really about that. It's actually more about listening.
And guess who can do that really well?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So our audience already has the tools.
Yes.
All we're doing is showing them how to adapt it to serve them in this situation. And so yeah, no, I started off thinking it was all about talking about myself. And that didn't work out very well. It was boring to me and to them.
Right. And can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I remember in the early days, so I moved here from South Africa 30 years ago. And in the early days of, I can't even remember where I was living when I did this, but I remember a particular event, a networking event in Edinburgh, that I turned up with business cards and suited and booted and ready to go. And I was terrified. And there were all these people desperate to make an impression. And so whenever you got to see their faces, if you had a moment to speak to someone that looked like you wanted to speak to them, I mean, what could you judge them on apart from how they looked? They had this kind of glaze going on that says, I'm going to tell you what I need to tell you, and then I'm going to bog off and go and do the same to someone else. And that's when I recognized that this is not for me.
Mm,
I can't be doing with this inauthentic connection that's being
yeah.
raised here. You say what's important to you and give me your business card, and I'll say what's important to me and give you my business card, and then we'll never speak to each other again. Because even then I wasn't aware I was an ADHDer, but even then I knew ain't nothing happening with his business card. And so it was after that specific event that it became clear over years, it wasn't an instant event. It became clear over the years that actually the conversations that are easier are the ones where I ask the open questions.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And in your description there, it sort of made me think again of this sort of very traditional, sort of patriarchal, I suppose,
Mm.
image of what networking is.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was picturing sort of men in suits going around, sort of, I don't
Yeah.
know, going door to door selling good double glazing or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
And we are hopefully kind of moving into a new era, really, which is not so much about me, and trying to sound exciting and being all salesy.
Mm.
I mean, how much do you believe that things are changing in that respect?
Things are changing unbelievably. The what I'm talking about is possibly 20 years ago, right? If you look at how people find us these days, AI
Mm,
is in the room.
yeah.
AI is doing all that checking people's business cards now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And when people want an answer, one of the first things many of them do is put it onto a search engine, and the first answer that comes up is the AI version. And how many people actually scroll past that to go and look at the more
Mm,
complicated versions of what they've just asked an answer for?
yeah.
So AI gives us the shorthand for what I've just asked.
Yeah.
But the way that we get to AI giving people the answer being us is
Mm,
to be available on the internet.
right.
So it helps to have a website. It
Mm.
helps to have a socials present. What's the word I'm looking for? Presence. Thank you. Uh, Me and myself, we had great conversations. Um,
Me
it
too.
helps to have blogs connected to those social
Yeah.
presences, right? But none of that says I have to be an extrovert.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I was just thinking. None of this is actually even about going into a room
No.
or telling telling somebody about all your products
No.
or anything like that. It's actually being well connected.
Uh-huh. So there's the electronic well connected that I've just
Yeah.
expanded on, but there's also the genuine personal connection thing that makes a difference. Because if you think to yourself, let's say I've met somebody who's a couples therapist, right? And I really value what they told me about their work, and I can see they're passionate about it, and I trust them from a conversation that we've had. If a client comes to me with a relationship problem that isn't going to be appropriate for just one person to work on, who am I going to be asking them to go and have a word with? Not some person on the internet, the
Yes.
person I've actually spoken
Yes.
to.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And
And
I was
that
just
person didn't do me a big pitch about their work, did they?
No, no, absolutely not. And it is about that authentic connection,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I know as a sensitive person and as an introvert that it it's the meaningful connection that means something to me. And I know that will be the case for a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And so what, we can cut the rubbish, the sort of sparkly introductions and all that kind of thing, and just actually do what we're good at in a way, I think.
And if we find ourselves in places where we are comfortable, we are much more likely to have these real conversations with people.
Yes,
So whether
yes,
it's one-to-one or whether it's in a group, choosing where you put yourself really matters. So like knowing yourself really matters, because otherwise how are you going to know if you're going to be comfortable?
yes, yes, yes. It's that's so true. And can you say a bit more about that with regards to your process in
Okay,
this?
so here's my tips for how I'm going to know where I'm going to be comfortable. I am an ADHDer, but I'm self-recognized because where I live, unless you're in crisis, you can't get a diagnosis through the NHS, and I'm not about to spend a whole pile of money on something that is very obvious to me.
Mm,
So I know that when I spend time with other people in a group, and they are also neurodivergent, I often feel a whole lot more at ease with those people because I'm not going to have to over
Yeah.
explain myself
Mm.
to be understood and not misrepresented.
Yeah.
So I know that if I'm like, for example, earlier in the week, last week, I was doing some CPD, and I came up with a point in the group that basically said, look, I get what you're saying in the CPD, but actually for my clients, that's not going to work out because XYZ. And then whenever I was put in a breakout room, it was easy for me to spot which people were most likely to be ADHDers by how they spoke, by what they said, etc. And because I'd said about ADHD, people are very comfortable to say how they identify or whether they work with people who are ADHDers. And so automatically, I've just made my own room of people who want to speak to me and that I want to speak to because I've set out my identity
Yeah.
In a conversation in front of a load of people.
Yes.
That didn't have to happen with words, like spoken words. That could have been in the chat.
Mm.
But I could have still made the point saying, this thing you're teaching us here sounds very valuable. From my audience, these are the things we would have to consider. And I would still be saying my audience are ADHDers, etc., which then tells the whole group. And therefore, if I'm then in a group with someone else, they might go, oh, yeah, that thing is interesting to me.
Mm. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is find where you're comfortable and then find those people. Find a nest of them.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, because I guess there might be some people out there looking for just trying to decide on their niche.
Mm.
And it's not about reinventing the wheel, is it? It is about genuinely thinking, okay, what am I comfortable with?
Mm-hmm.
What environments do I find myself comfortable in? Who do I find myself comfortable with? What kind of things do I want to talk about?
Yeah.
Rather than I think some of us can sort of rack our brains and kind of think, oh gosh, I've got to do something out there or different or something like that. And actually, that's not the case at all.
In private practice, what we are selling is ourselves.
Yeah.
So the more ourselves we can be, the more likely it is someone else is going to recognize that if they're comfortable with the version of ourselves that they recognize, they're much more likely to then seek us out for either conversation or work.
Yeah.
And the more often we get to put ourselves out as our authentic selves somewhere, whether that's on socials, whether that's in person, whether that's in a one-to-many kind of situation, the more chance there is you're going to get picked up somehow by either a client or someone else who would like to network with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So earlier on, you said that it has really sort of benefited you, sort of becoming comfortable with the networking.
Mm.
So I wondered if you could shed some light on how it has benefited you, so
Mm.
both personally and for your business.
Yes. So I alluded to the fact that I don't see daylight very much. I may be a vampire. Um, I don't bite anyone, I promise. Well, being in private practice, working for yourself can get so lonely, right? There's not
Yeah.
the stuff I deal with on a day-to-day basis, the topics my clients bring, the content of what they talk about. I can't go and share that with anyone, can I?
No.
And even if I was just to bring the headlines of what goes on in therapy to my friends, they still wouldn't get the full picture. They would still be going, oh, I couldn't do what you do, as they always do. And then that would be the end of the conversation because we can't go into detail, which means I don't ever get to have that kind of sense of community with
Yeah.
people I'm comfortable with. And so I was like, well, right, you live here where there are more sheep than people. You have friends and they're good friends, but they don't know hee-haw about therapy and you can't let them in on it very much. So what do you do? And it became very clear to me that if I made it possible for other therapists who would like to have a chinwag sometimes to do that, it's a very nice opener for just having a chat about our work.
Yeah.
What do you do? Where do you do it? Are you online? Is it in person? What do you enjoy about it? What's your, which clients do you enjoy working the most with? That kind of stuff. And then there's the elements of when you're having a tough time, being able to high level say, this week I've had to deal with XYZ kind of stuff. And, the other person invariably goes, oh yeah, that's rough.
Mm.
Which gives you a social outlet for what's going on without obviously breaking confidentiality or anything that's unethical. But it gives you a place to go and get that, because you're going to see your supervisor at least once a month, and they will take some of that on. And if you're in therapy yourself, yeah, there's a bit of that going on, but there's usually a purpose to those meetings and a deadline.
Mm. Yes,
Whereas
absolutely.
when you're meeting someone else who's just in a similar boat to you both get to go,
Mm.
late cancellations
Mm.
or Christmas.
Mm.
When it comes to dealing with stuff that we both get. And so it gave me that personal outlet, but it also means that someone else gets to recognize that we are the same in many ways,
Yes,
and that builds a connection right there.
yes, yes. Absolutely. And, like you mentioned about supervision and our own therapy, but, it's not enough really, is it? I don't think. It's not that sort of, because people in other work, they may be in offices or whatever it may be, and they get to sort of talk about their day with their colleagues. Oh, that client on the phone, they really did my head in, or whatever it is. But we don't get to
Yeah,
do that at all.
it's a lack of community, right? Unless we really make an effort to find a community of some kind, people in private practice can suffer from being isolated because of it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And also, and this was something that we were talking about in the Facebook group as well, it, I think that a lot of, I don't want to speak for anybody, but my sense is that a lot of therapists are really, are finding are finding private practice quite tough at the moment.
Mm,
Numbers are quite low, and we're all finding that people want to maybe, heal in different ways.
mhm.
There are lots of shifts, which I genuinely believe kind of ultimately may be for the good. I don't necessarily think it's bad,
Mm,
but in the meantime, there's adapting to be done,
yeah.
and people are feeling that they need to find different streams of income, that
Mm,
kind of thing.
mm,
And they're also finding that connection is just becoming more and more important as a result of all of this.
yes.
I mean, what are your thoughts about that side of things?
I yes, private practice is harder than it has been.
Mm,
Trying to connect with people who want what you can offer is harder because the way of finding it is different.
mm,
So, if you've been subscribed to three different directories, counseling directories, and you're not getting anything off that, then it really becomes important to recognize what's going on and make an effort to make sure that you have some other form of income based on your skills, and something that people want, but without devaluing what matters to you.
yeah,
And so that means we can no longer passively sit and wait for someone to get to us through whatever
yeah,
directory we're on. So this is becoming more important than it has been in the past, which is interesting because everyone's going, oh, AI is going to take my job. Actually, AI cannot network for you.
no,
The best person at networking for you is you,
mm,
and flying your identity flag high is the way to do that.
yes, yes,
I don't remember where I got this idea from, but I use it in session with lots of clients. And I'm sure I've nicked this with pride from someone else. So if I have, I apologize because I can't remember who. But I tell the story like this. I go, have you ever been to a music festival? And people invariably go, yes, I have. And then I say, there's always one person with a huge flag that you can see from anywhere in the festival. It does not matter where they are. You can recognize where they are because this flag's flinging about this way and that. And if, in addition to this flag being visible from everywhere, it also said on the flag, I like whippets. I
Yeah.
like camping, and
Yeah.
I like whatever, right? Then people from anywhere could not only see that you're a person who likes to carry flags, they could also see what matters to you. And the question I always ask my clients is, what does that do? How
Mm,
does that affect the person who's the observer?
mm,
And the answer is often, well, if you don't like flags, you're not going to go anywhere near them. Or if what's on that flag totally floats your boat, you're going to find your way through the crowd to that flag carrier.
yeah.
And then the next question I usually ask is, and how does that affect the person carrying the flag? Well, the person carrying the flag now doesn't have to deal with anyone who can't stand a flag
Yeah.
because they're not going to come
Yeah.
near them. And
Yeah.
the people they're going to be
Absolutely.
attracting are the right people because it says
Yes.
on my flag what I'm up
Yes.
to.
Mm, mm. And I think something that you said a bit earlier is key as well, that you said that, it's about finding things without sacrificing yourself. And so I think that may be, I don't know what you think, but I think that may be sort of a common misconception around networking as well,
Mm-hmm.
that all of a sudden, or with setting up maybe new streams of income, that all of a sudden you've got to be, I don't know, an expert public speaker
Mm-hmm.
or be really interested in X, Y, or Z, and you
Yeah.
might not be. Nobody is
Mm.
asking you to do that.
No.
In actual fact, it's far better if you kind of, excuse me, it's much better if you do kind of live up to your own values
Yeah.
and continue to embrace those in whatever you do.
Yeah. It does require us to love ourselves for who we are in the first place.
Mm,
If we can't do that, for example, I don't wear makeup. I used to wear makeup, travels and travels of it, and I don't now. And if I turn up at a public event, I still have that little voice in the back of my head going, "You're not prepared. You haven't got any lippy on."
mm.
Right. But I can answer that voice with, and this is my face. This is the face I shall be using for the rest of my life. And
Yeah,
therefore, the people who like it will come to it, and the people who don't like it will talk about me, and that's okay. So, in the same way as that, self love and being clear about your identity to the outside world tells other people what to expect, it means I've not had to change a blinking thing about myself.
yeah.
All I've done is point out the things that are important for other people to know in this conversation.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. And I can relate to that as well. I mean, I used to work in the events industry
Mm-hmm.
and I used to work for a boss who he used to be an air steward. And
Uh,
so he was just immaculate suit, really short hair and all the rest of it. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, I went to work and I was smart, but
mm,
it wasn't quite enough for him. He wanted the really, my hair being curly, that was bad. I think
oh,
he wanted me to cut my hair off.
okay.
And you know, wanted it to be tidier, but that's just not my hair,
That's not what your hair does.
and I didn't, and I find suits, really sort of businessy suits really uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I did this for a while, and it just was not me at all. And I have to say, I just feel so much more comfortable that,
Yeah,
not doing all that anymore.
yeah.
And
And how much easier is it for you to bring the message you want to give when you're in comfier clothes and not worried about whether my hair's all right the way my hair is?
yeah, no, it is so much easier. Because especially because if you're being something you're not, because you think that that's what you're meant to be doing, then you're going to be thinking, oh well, is my hair, is it come out of the clip? Has it done this, or is it, am I
It's a
wearing
distraction.
this skirt right? Because you're just not going to know because it's not going to feel like you.
Yeah, yeah. It's all a distraction. What we're trying to do is pare it down to the minimum thing you need to concentrate on. Especially, so like my people, my ADHDers will know that the more you can reduce distraction in your life, the easier it's going to be for you to hang on to the blinking thing you got there for. Um, and so that's one of the things I do is I reduce the distraction as much as I can so that I can turn up as the real me without having to go, oh, am I wearing this right? Or is my hair just right? Or whatever. Um, it means I don't have to worry about that. I can focus just on this thing in front of me.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I was wondering if you have any further sort of tips for any neurodivergent folk out there with regards to networking.
Yeah, so we know neurodivergence is a muckle umbrella, muckle Scottish word for lots.
Mm,
Um, it's huge, right? Such a variety, and unfortunately, the whole world often boils it down to ADHD and ASD.
yeah.
And I don't even like saying ASD. I don't even like saying ADHD, um,
Mm,
because autistic people and people who are ADHDers are not all there is when it comes to being neurodivergent.
yes, yes, very true.
So I guess based on what I've said to you earlier, getting to learn about yourself and know what
Mm,
works for you, what is a towards move for you, being able to be comfortable to speak to someone, and what is an away move for you to being comfortable to speak to somebody is important. So, for example, if you happen to be autistic, again, not all autistic people will identify with what I'm about to say, right? So please don't throw things. Um, if you happen to be autistic, it may be that your social battery is a bit smaller than some other people's, right? Doesn't mean you don't have a social battery. You might actually be able to be the belle of the ball. You might actually really be the life and soul when you're there. But there's going to come a time when there's going to be a tax to pay for that, and you're going to have to take yourself out of the situation and possibly be in a quiet, dark room. If you're aware of that, and you also recognize that networking or putting yourself in front of other people is useful, it's finding that balance. It's going, how much of this can I do before it's actually going to start harming me?
mm,
How much of this is beneficial, and when does it start turning tail and becoming something else?
yeah,
So that we don't say yes to things that are not going to fit with what we need.
yeah,
And when we say no to things that don't suit, we can clearly state why so that other people get to understand that we're not just averse to networking. It's a specific kind of networking that's not going to
yes,
work.
yes, yes.
And for ADHDers, if you're going to be in a room full of flashing lights and loud music, it might get you all excited, but are you going to be able to actually bring yourself back to the elevator pitch that's in the back of your head that you actually do
Mm,
need to transmit to other people when there's so much else going on? Are you not just going to go, oh, squirrel over there all the time, instead of going, let's talk about the thing that I need to get out of this?
mm,
So knowing yourself is the key. It's
yeah,
it's it's knowing what drives you. It's knowing what is different for you to other people, and it's knowing what's hard for you
yeah, yeah.
and being okay with all of that.
Mm. So, so for the elevator pitch, I
Yeah.
guess, knowing yourself clearly is really important for that. And what other sort of tips do you have about creating an elevator pitch?
Okay, so something really concise, right? When you introduced me earlier, you said I was an online therapist and mindfulness teacher to ADHDers.
Mm.
Does that tell people what they need to know about me?
Yeah,
It does, right?
absolutely does.
And it means I haven't included anything that's superfluous. I
Mm.
haven't said I'm a very kind online mindfulness teacher and therapist who works with only specific ADHDers and only on a Wednesday. I haven't made it as complicated as that, right? It means we're paring it down. And I guess my message through all of this is pare it down. Whether
Yeah.
it's your message, whether it's your presentation of yourself,
Mm.
whether it's the amount of stuff you're going to say, all of that stuff, make it as minimal as you can, because there's enough other stuff involved in networking without you complicating it with the other
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And that statement as well, online therapist and mindfulness teacher to ADHDers, yes, it's
Mm-hmm,
nice and short and succinct, but
mm-hmm,
equally it says a lot at the same time.
mm-hmm.
And it invites uh, conversation and questions in itself, doesn't it? So,
Yeah,
earlier on you were talking about you're obviously an online a therapist because you live in the Highlands of Scotland, and so including
yeah,
online in that, it can
yeah.
introduce a conversation about that, can't it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I must correct you there. Scottish Borders, not
Sorry,
Highlands.
I don't know why I said
It's the sheep. I'm sorry,
yes,
you can't help it.
yeah,
But we have sheep here too.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, quite right. It gives you. It's an opener, right? And that's what we want. If what we're going to give people is something that invites questions, we don't have to throw lots of data at people. I said data. What data? Anyway, information. We we have to throw information at people. They get to ask us,
yes, yes,
and then it becomes
absolutely,
interesting to them because it's something they want to know.
yes, yes. So, I'm just thinking about that therapist out there who maybe they've been experiencing a real downturn in clients. They may be also feeling a bit isolated. Perhaps they've been doing online therapy since COVID or something like that, and are both feeling like they need more connection
Mhm.
and also maybe starting new streams of income. What
Yeah.
would you be your first, and maybe they're quite a little bit terrified about this.
Mm.
What would you say to them?
I'm going to throw therapy right back at you. When you've got a client walking in the room, giving you their whole list of woes,
Mm,
where'd you start? You start with the feelings.
yeah.
How do you feel about this? How are we going to deal with it? And the safest place that I can think of talking about feelings is with another therapist.
Yes.
And without necessarily having the contracting of being the therapist and the client, but someone else who gets to go, yeah, that is tough. And what are you doing? And here's what I'm doing. It's an opener for a conversation. But if you've got a place where you can say the feelings first,
Mm,
it leads into all the rest.
yeah.
And so I'm going to do it. Here's an open invitation to any therapist out there who fancies a safe chinwag with another therapist, probably a Friday, because those are the days I have my admin on. Um, to do that, to go, I want to talk about this, or I want to achieve that, or here's where I'm going next. And I get to say, oh, right, okay. And tell me about that. Tell me how you feel about that. Tell me what's scary about it. Tell me what you're excited about, right? Because feelings
Mm,
aren't always just scared and sad. Although we wouldn't know it. Um, it's a place to bring your feelings without it being therapy. And actually, here's where the world's changing. The world needs a lot more places where we can bring our feelings. That's not just therapy, because people aren't actually ill when they're feeling a hard feeling.
yeah.
In the
Yes.
same way as we're not ill when we're having a tough time to do with something to do with our private practice. We
Mm,
just need some community. We just need some other people.
yeah. And you've sort of caused me to think of something else there, actually, when you said about we need more places where we can talk about our feelings. And it just caused me to think that actually the world kind of needs what counselors and therapists have got to offer.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that gets forgotten sometimes,
Mhm.
especially in the, oh my gosh, I can't put myself out there. How can I
Mhm.
possibly do that? I'm
Mhm.
no good at talking, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, there is something about denying the world sort of what you have to give because it's really important
Mhm.
that people are able to talk about their feelings,
Yeah.
that actually, you know, maybe therapists and counselors need to have a bit more of a stake in the world.
Yes. Let's acknowledge our value as humans in the world. Humans first, then therapists, right?
Yeah,
We had skills that were inherent to us before we ever trained to be therapists.
yeah,
We didn't land in this job by accident.
no,
We learned all kinds of wonderful things from the lives we've had, but also there's some things we were just blinking born with.
yeah,
And if we don't put that on our flag for everyone else to see, then other people can't benefit from what we are and who we are and what we've got to give.
Yes.
So finding ways of valuing that for ourselves really matters. And the way we can do that is when we speak to someone else about what we do and someone else gives us this face, and it's going to not translate to sound, so I'll give you a verbal version of it. Oh, right, an interested thing about what you've just said gives you that feedback that says, oh, someone else is interested in what I've just said.
Mm.
And if you didn't say it, if you didn't put yourself in front of another person to say it, they could never give you that feedback. You could never get that value from another person
Yes.
that you can then internalize and go, oh yeah, actually I am quite good at this.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you just said there about us all being humans, I think that's really important as well in the context of, we're not perfect. We're
No.
not going to do this perfectly. And actually, I think that can be something sometimes that does hold therapists and counselors back because
Mm.
it's a bit, maybe sometimes people expect us to be all perfect,
Mm.
or maybe society does, or maybe we expect that from ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so important to almost kind of advertise the fact that actually we are human. We are going to make mistakes. I am going
Absolutely.
to forget that you said the the borders and not the highlands.
Yeah.
That none of us are perfect, and that's
And
okay.
I wasn't furious about it. I even came up with a reason why you might have thought that. It's
Yeah,
not because we're being human to human. I'm not going, oh, that's an imperfection.
no,
It didn't bother me. But if it bothered you, it might affect what happens next in our conversation.
indeed. Yes.
So allowing ourselves to have a little go at new things and fail epically at least the first few times, if not continuously, because you know what, we never stop being human. Um, or maybe fail in new ways as we progress, allows us to have a go. If you're not having a go, you can't fail.
Yeah. Yes, yes, absolutely. And self-kindness is so important because when I said
Mm,
Highlands and not
mm,
borders,
mm.
my brain went, it's like, oh, I know why I said that because we used to go on little holidays to the Highlands of Scotland and there was loads of sheep. So I
Yes,
just
that
I
association made it.
connected
Yeah,
sheep with the Highlands, and so
yeah,
that's completely understandable. I'm like, oh yeah, I can understand why I did that. So
yeah.
it's about. I'm not saying I'm perfect at being kind to myself. To be honest, that's
No,
still a work in progress and maybe a lifelong thing. But
yeah.
it is so important in this process.
Hmm. Literally anything we're going to change in our lives, right? If we're taking on something new, it really matters that we start tiny. It really matters that we don't throw ourselves in front of the most important lead you can ever have a networking session with on the
Yeah,
first occasion, right? Pick someone that maybe you know a little bit. Pick someone who, if you really muck it up badly, is not going to affect the rest of your career, right?
yes, yes,
Do
yeah,
that a
that's very
few
true.
times. Have a little go. Like I've been on quite a lot of podcasts, and at the beginning, I was just looking for someone who would have me on a podcast. It wasn't particularly related to what I work on. I would want to chat on about ADHD and mindfulness and therapy at the very least. I wanted to do that, but the podcast didn't necessarily have to be about that. And the reason I did it was because I wasn't going to be speaking in a risky place. I wasn't going to be
Yeah,
speaking where everyone's going to go, oh my word, did you hear that therapist? She doesn't know what she's on about. So I could be more free in what I said, so I could concentrate more on genuinely being there. And as time went on, it became easier for me. So now I've been on a whole variety of podcasts, and it's getting more and more specialist as time goes on. It's usually something to do with therapy or mindfulness or ADHD. Um, and I can be more comfortable with myself in talking about my topics without feeling like it's risky to me.
mm.
So pick an easy one, pick a really
Yes.
easy goal.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You can just go and talk about something simple like self-care or
Yeah,
anything, it doesn't nobody, we all have first times of doing something.
absolutely. We all start somewhere, right? And the first,
Absolutely.
I mean, remind yourself the first time you ever did any practice for being a therapist in
Yes.
training, what did
Yeah.
that feel like?
Yeah.
Nobody walked into that first practice going, I'm going to ace this. Or maybe if they did, they maybe walked out feeling something else afterwards, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But imagine if we hadn't have done it.
Exactly. We had to
If
push through. Now,
Yeah.
look, I am not one to advocate pushing through beyond what's reasonable.
No.
Okay.
Mm.
But sitting with an amount of discomfort
Yes.
to the benefit, the longer term benefit to myself is worth it as long as we manage what is reasonable.
Yes.
Being mindful, being compassionate to ourselves in this. So, yes, that's what I'm saying. Have a little bit of discomfort. It's going to grow you new skills you didn't know you had.
Yes.
Don't push yourself beyond your
Yeah.
comfort zone, right? Find that stretch between comfort and overwhelm
Yes, absolutely.
and go there. And
Yeah.
then if you need to retreat one day because actually you've done too much of that or you've stretched it too far, okay, that's fine. You can retreat to comfortable for a bit and then start again.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. No one's suggesting that you go and speak to a room with 200 people for half an hour, are they? You know,
No, unless you really don't want to be able to see your clients the next week. Make sure you look after yourself.
Yes, yes, that's it. And because we have to do that as well, because especially when we are sort of putting ourselves out there a bit,
Mm.
it's so important to look after yourself in the process because that's all modeling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To potential clients and to everyone really.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I love what I do, and that makes all this easy.
Mm,
I'm not talking, I'm not some snake oil salesman trying to sell people stuff they don't really need. I am telling people things I totally enjoy working on, which gives other people a sense that they're in safe hands because I'm not doing this as a sort of sideline for something. I'm not talking about something I don't have any lived experience about. I am authentically me in the conversation about what I'm talking about,
yeah,
which makes it comfortable for me and that makes it comfortable for the person I'm speaking with.
yeah. And you've said actually you're quite comfortable with this networking now, and clearly it's been of benefit to you and to your business.
Mm.
And having sort of met you properly to do this, you and I'm sure the listeners would agree with me that you absolutely do not come across like some sort of snake oil salesperson. Far
I'm
from
delighted.
it. And I think if you did, then probably wouldn't be quite so successful as well, because I just don't think that's really what people want anymore anyway.
There's enough inauthenticity in the world right now. The one thing that we can bring the world is our true selves. And we can do that better than anybody else because there ain't nobody else like me.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And with that in mind, Liezl, I know that you've got some of your um, sessions for ADHDers coming up. So would you
Mhm.
like to tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. I've got some mindfulness tasters for people who are ADHDers themselves, but also for therapists who might like to use some of the techniques with their clients. So these are just tasters, they're just single little practices to learn that help with people's focus, emotional regulation, and energy management. Now we're recording this in advance of it being aired, so the live tasters are going to be soon, but actually they're still going to be recorded and available to buy. They're only £10 for an hour, which you can count as
That's
a
really good.
CPD hour.
Mm,
So that people can get that off my website, and that leads them into being able to attend one of my mindfulness courses online, which is an 8-week course. I do them twice a year, once in January and usually once in September. And that's online. It's on a Thursday evening. Usually it's a couple of hours with other people who are either ADHDers in one group, and I'll do another group that is for therapists alone, so that we can talk like therapists to each other without feeling like we're maybe going to run into the room with one of our clients, which would be an obstacle. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you fancy a taster, you'll be able to download it. I will be doing some of them live again. But for now, that's going to be your best way, is to go onto my website and download your £10 taster, or all three £10 tasters, to have some CPG time and also some really useful tools that might be useful for you, but also for your clients.
Sounds fantastic. And I will make sure that, all the details about that, your website and everything, are in the show notes. So do have look Liezl up and look at all the great stuff that she does.
Yeah, better to say, actually, I'm on there as rewiretherapy.co.uk, not as Liezl Laidlaw, although anything with my name on it will take you there.
Sure. So we're coming towards sort of magic 50 minutes, where usually that's how long these podcasts are. It seems to work. And so I always ask people what their favorite self-care ritual is. So what would you say your favorite one is at the moment, Liezl?
I suppose my most frequent one is getting up before everybody else. I get up before everybody else. I go and make a coffee, and I allow myself to let the coffee get to the right temperature while I meditate. My way of meditating is not necessarily the same way as other people do, because I can't concentrate for very long. But I use this bead bracelet that, if you were watching it, you'd be able to see, to count my breaths by moving my thumb along from one beat to the next without having to count, right? Because counting makes me itchy. And so by the time I've worked my way through my bracelet, I've done 21 mindful breaths, and then I can do more if I want, or I can drink my coffee.
Yeah, I know what you mean about that period of time when no one else is up. There's something quite special about it, isn't there?
Yeah. And so there is a sacrifice involved, right? I need to get up before other people. But yes, I live with that discomfort for the benefit of what I'm doing, which nicely feeds back to what we were saying.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Honestly, it's been great. And I really think that there'll be people out there that find it really helpful. And I just think it's so important to sort of dispel some of those myths about networking.
Absolutely.
And also
I would love to be involved in anything that you're running. If there's any support I can give, let me know.
That's amazing. Thanks so much, Liezl. And take care, everybody, and thank you for listening.